I grew up in downstate Illinois, in Champaign-Urbana, which is about 150 miles south of Chicago. Very agricultural, flat, big sky, soybeans in my backyard kind of setting. And it's also where the University of Illinois is located. And my dad was on the faculty there. So I was kind of a faculty brat growing up in a college town. I chose Bryn Mawr College. It was the only women's college to which I applied. It was the only school on the East Coast to which I applied. There was just something about the atmosphere, the combination of sort of academic focus and rigor, but also kind of community and care between the students, that it just made a big impression on me. And so I chose that, and it turned out to be a great decision for me. Bryn Mawr helped me to think of myself as someone who loves ideas and likes to sit with ideas and sit with a text and sort of grapple with it, to write and to write carefully. It was really great for me. I think I came to law school for reasons that were very different from why I stayed in law school and why I became a lawyer and why I am now a legal academic. I sort of loved this idea of sort of the boundaries between freedom of expression and the dangers of hate speech. And that was 1977, and I was very concerned about that. And I was concerned about intolerance on the basis of religion, on the basis of sexual orientation. Even in 1977, that was on my mind. After graduation, I clerked for a federal judge for 1 year, also in downstate Illinois, Harold Baker, who is still going strong at age, I think, 94 or 95. I just saw him recently, and he's just such a hero to me. But I clerked for Harold Baker for a year, and then I went to Chicago and took a job at a large law firm, Winston & Strawn. And I was a litigation associate, and that meant at Winston, I could be working at any given time on, securities regulation, voting rights, franchise matters. I had lots of things in arbitration. I also had things in state court, federal court, but also because it was so large, I was usually the most junior person on a team of 2 or 3 or 6, that it could really be like that. I ended up practicing at Winston for about 3 years, and I knew if I stayed too long, it was going to be very difficult to make the shift into academics. And that had been kind of a long-term goal of mine. And so that was the point at which I decided to leave the practice and take a fellowship at the University of Chicago Law School. It's called the Bigelow Fellowship. I knew that I wanted to be a professor. My very first year in law school, a friend came to visit me, and we were talking about, where would you like to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And as I reflected on it, I thought, I would really like to be in a classroom. I loved what I was learning, and I thought, it would be so fun to teach this to other people. Lots of times young people gravitate toward things that are more familiar to them. And I knew academics because of my father's work, and it has turned out to be a really good shift for me. When I look back on my scholarship, I think I may be most proud of the work I did in marriage equality. I was able to have this kind of conversation about that with my spouse and say, how do we feel about the fact that we have this right that is denied to so many people that we care so deeply about? And do I have some responsibility to work that into my professional life? And so I did. And so that's why I started writing about that. And I feel good about it. I feel like, it was great to have that insight and to try to make a contribution fairly early on. I feel proud that I could get involved at an early stage and continued that involvement both in my scholarship and also in service outside of the academy. I do have a book published called Straightforward, Mobilizing Heterosexual Support for Gay Rights. This is something I co-authored with Ian Ayres, who is also my spouse. I will say, it is sort of funny to me to look back on this book that was published in, I think, 2004, 2005, and to see how far we've come. You see how culture evolves with the law and law evolves with the culture. Another book that I am working on right now is really more directed to first-year law students. And the idea of it is to help first-year law students integrate personal and professional values as they start to think like lawyers and become lawyers. How do they also hold on to what is a kind of core identity? It's about their past. It's about, the person they bring to law school. And what I've tried to do is put together a series of readings and journal prompts that allow students to process the ways law school might be changing them, might be affecting the way they think, so that they can hold on to their core identity. Because I think that's what's going to make for the happiest and most sustainable professional life. To be named the first woman dean at Quinnipiac was very meaningful to me. I love this school. I love the people. I love the students and the faculty. And I love the mission of the school, which I think is really to produce effective and ethical lawyers for the state of Connecticut and beyond. I don't know if women are particularly well suited to be deans, to be leaders of law schools, or to be healers as lawyers. I certainly have known so many men who have the kind of qualities of patience and vision and leadership and trying to bring people together around a motivating idea. I think that's sort of equally distributed among men and women. But I have noticed this, and I think there are times when it can make a difference where gender comes into play. And that is that, there are times that are very difficult, where emotions may be running high, and they're not necessarily angry emotions. They're about loss or sadness or a sense of vulnerability. And in my experience, being a woman, I'm a little bit more comfortable showing that myself and being fully present in that way. I'm happy with where I have ended up, and I'm glad that I've done the things along the way that I have done. I think I've grown from those experiences. I think I've learned from them. And so, I think I would do it all over again.